There's a strength in stillness, too. We just forget that sometimes. Because we live in a world that rewards the ones who run the fastest, talk the loudest, achieve the most. We've been taught that power is movement, that success is noise, that if you're not constantly doing, creating, achieving, then you're wasting time. But let me ask you something. What if the most important changes in your life are happening when you're not moving at all? What if healing isn't loud? What if growth doesn't always look like action? What if power sometimes sits quietly in a corner, waiting for you to slow down enough to notice it? It's easy to feel weak when you're not producing, when you're not building something obvious, when you're not in the middle of a breakthrough. It's easy to look at the stillness in your life, those quiet, empty, slow moments, and think, this must be failure. But stillness isn't failure. Stillness is where your soul breathes again. Stillness is the place where strength is born, not the kind that shows off, but the kind that endures. Think about the times when you were really, deeply tired. Not just physically, but emotionally exhausted. You weren't broken because you were still. You were still because life had broken something inside you that needed rest. Stillness wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. But no one claps for that kind of strength. No one throws a party when you finally learn to sit with your thoughts. No one gives you a medal for breathing slowly through another wave of anxiety instead of pushing it away. No one posts about choosing peace over performance. So we think it doesn't count. We think it's nothing. But it's not. Stillness is how we begin again. Let me paint you a picture. A person wakes up after months of burnout. They've been running, chasing deadlines, goals, people. Their body is tired. Their mind is loud. Their heart feels empty. So one day they stop. They turn off their phone. They cancel plans. They sit at their window and just breathe. The world calls that laziness. But you and I, we know better. We know that stopping isn't quitting. It's choosing. It's choosing to face the silence you've been avoiding. It's choosing to stop pretending you're fine when you're not. It's choosing to say, I matter enough to rest. That's not weakness. That's courage. And that kind of courage, it changes you. Because when you let yourself be still, even for a moment, you start to see again. You notice the tension in your shoulders that you've been carrying for weeks. You hear the thoughts you've buried under noise. You realize how hard you've been on yourself, without even noticing. And then you exhale. You soften, not because everything is fixed, but because you've finally stopped fighting yourself. There's a quiet kind of power in that. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that isn't afraid to say, right now, I don't need to be more. I just need to be. Of course, this kind of stillness is uncomfortable, especially at first, because it reveals things. It shows you what you've been running from. It makes you feel emotions you've tried to numb. It holds up a mirror to your fears and whispers, look. That's why many people avoid stillness. Because they mistake comfort for healing and distraction for strength. But you, if you're watching this, something inside you already knows the truth. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be seen to be valuable. And you don't need to move forward. Sometimes, the most important progress you'll ever make is the decision to pause. To stop scrolling. To stop chasing. To stop trying to outrun your own heart. And in that pause, something shifts. The chaos loses its grip. The fear loses its voice. And you remember who you are underneath it all. You're not weak for being still. You're wise for choosing to be. But that silence, that stillness we keep running from, it has its own kind of power. There's something quietly sacred about not reacting right away. Something noble in not rushing to fix, to speak, to solve. The world rewards speed and noise, but life itself often unfolds in whispers. In between the loud moments, in the soft, steady breath of now, something deep is always trying to reach us. Stillness isn't empty. It's full of everything we've been too distracted to notice. Think of the last time you paused, really paused, not because you had to, but because you chose to. Maybe it was while sitting by a window, watching the light shift on the floor. Maybe it was lying in bed, heart too heavy to move, just staring at the ceiling. Or maybe it was in the shower, where your thoughts finally had space to speak. In those moments, the truth doesn't shout. It arrives gently. You start to hear the honest things. The uncomfortable truths. The dreams you buried. The needs you ignored. The fatigue you didn't want to admit. Stillness is a mirror, not always flattering, but always honest. And in that honesty, real strength begins. Because facing yourself without distraction, That takes courage. When you're always doing, running, fixing, you're often hiding too. From fear, from pain, from parts of you that feel too heavy to carry. But when you stop, you see them. And slowly, you realize they haven't been here to hurt you. They've been waiting to be understood. The tiredness you feel isn't laziness. It's your soul asking for rest. The doubt in your chest isn't weakness. It's your heart trying to protect you. The numbness, the silence, the stillness, it's not failure. It's a signal. Stillness is not a punishment. It's a message. And when you start listening to it, everything changes. You begin to reclaim pieces of yourself. You remember what matters. You stop performing and start becoming. That's when you see, not all progress is movement. Not all growth is loud. Sometimes, standing still is the bravest thing you can do. But this kind of stillness isn't passive. It's intentional. It's choosing not to react out of fear. Choosing not to rush just because others are running. Choosing to stay when your instincts scream to flee. Choosing to breathe when your mind races. And make no mistake, choosing stillness in a world that never stops moving, that's strength. It's strength to be the quiet one in a loud room. To pause when pressured. To rest when glorified hustle demands more. To say, I don't know yet, instead of pretending you do. To be with yourself, not escaping, not numbing, just being. That's where the inner work happens. That's where healing begins. That's where clarity is born. Because only in the stillness can you hear your own voice again. The voice that's been buried under expectations, obligations, and noise. The voice that remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. The voice that says, you don't have to rush. You don't have to prove. You don't have to be okay all the time. You just have to be here. Now, there's a story unfolding in you, but it can't be written if you never pause long enough to feel it. So many people try to fix everything externally. They change jobs, end relationships, move cities, buy things, chase achievements. But still, the restlessness follows. Because the real shift isn't outside. It happens in the stillness, when you finally sit with what you've been avoiding. And when you do, you become grounded in a way no chaos can shake. You stop needing constant validation. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop reacting and start responding with presence and purpose. Stillness is the space where wisdom grows. Not the wisdom from books or quotes. The kind that comes from living, hurting, waiting, healing. The kind that can't be rushed. That can only be earned, one breath at a time. That's the hidden strength. The kind that doesn't scream, but endures. That doesn't impress, but transforms. And maybe that's what you're being called to now. Not to push harder, but to listen deeper. Not to chase more, but to hold less. To return to the part of you that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. That doesn't need to be seen to be real. That doesn't need to win to be worthy. Stillness is not an absence. It's a presence. A presence that says, you're already enough. A presence that teaches you to stay. A presence that makes you whole again. Because maybe you don't need to become more. Maybe you just need to come back to yourself. But here's the beautiful truth. Stillness doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're doing something different. You're listening. You're healing. You're reconnecting with who you are beneath the noise. When you're still, you begin to see clearly. You realize that not every battle requires a sword. Some are won in silence. Not every step forward makes a sound. Some progress is invisible, but it's real. And not every kind of strength looks like motion. Sometimes, it's found in staying grounded when everything else is shaking. You don't have to prove your worth by always moving, always achieving, always pushing. Your value was never tied to your pace. Let that sink in. You are not behind. You are becoming. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. So the next time life quiets down and your heart grows restless in the silence, try something radical. Let it be. Let the stillness teach you, shape you, soften you. Let it make space for the next right thing. Because in that pause, in that sacred gap between what was and what's to come, you might just meet the strongest, truest version of yourself. And that version, they don't chase. They don't perform. They remember. And they build from peace, not pressure. There's a strength in the stillness too. Wait for it. Trust it. Let it carry you forward.